drummers, and welcome back to Tim Connolly Drums. As you can see, and if you've been keeping up to date with what's been going on with me, I've had a 4th hand surgery. Now this one actually doesn't look bad. The stitches are still in there. And also here as well, my finger right here. I had the scar tissue removed that was caused from my previous surgery. So this should be it. Even with the bandage, the stitches and everything, I do have a fairly decent range of motion. I have to do physiotherapy and a lot of exercises to get this hand back in shape. So I won't be playing drums for a little while. So I thought I wanted to get a video out. And sometimes, honestly, in these drum channels, a lot of guys, they really don't play. A lot of us pros like to give advice. So I would like to do that today. I want to give you guys 7 times you don't want to be this drummer. Now, it's not ranked. I'm giving you 7 times you don't want to be this drummer. It's not ranked 7 to 1 because you could interplace these anywhere. 5 could be 1, 6 could be 3, whatever. I'm just giving you 7 instances that you don't want to be this drummer, okay? So the first one is you don't want to be the drummer that doesn't take care of their drum kit or tune their drums. I couldn't tell you how many times I've gone out to see somewhat amateurish bands and the drums look like hell. The front drum head taken off. Oh, that's my pet peeve. Unless you play in a 70s tribute band and you're playing 70s wet rock, as I like to call it, you don't need that front head off. Obviously, it's choice. Just my personal opinion. Can't stand the front head off. I want that bass drum to resonate somewhat. And in modern tuning of the drums, where you're trying to get at least a third, maybe a diminished fourth kind of a thing around the drum kit. So you got that ding, dong, dong, dong kind of a sound happening. And the drums sound great. That's what you want to be doing. Don't be the guy that doesn't care about the sound of his drums. Every drummer has to care about the sound of their kit. But I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen drummers play, the drums sound like crap and they look like crap. And that affects your whole show, okay? Next one. This one, a little bit contentious. Refuses to listen to suggestions or constructive criticism from bandmates. Okay, this is a tough one because I've been in situations myself where the guitar player says, I don't want you to play that fill or do this or do that. Sometimes it can be extremely irritating. And I totally understand if they don't know what they're talking about. The other thing that can be annoying for drummers is when the guitar player says, do that, play this thing instead. But they don't know how to demonstrate it and they don't know how to musically explain it. They just say, do this thing. That can be super annoying for drummers because what the hell is this thing? You don't have a clue. So, what I'm talking about is when you refuse to listen to criticism that actually comes from an intelligent place where the guitar player or singer or bass player, keyboardist, whatever, they actually know what they're talking about and they're constructively trying to criticize you, but not in a bad way. Maybe they're saying, you know, play this fill, play that fill, play this groove, do this, do that, whatever the suggestion is. If it's for the betterment of the song, listen to it, especially if you're in a studio situation where you're going to be recording and laying down those tracks forever. So listen. Those times are important that you listen to people, take into consideration exactly what it is that their suggestion or criticism is. Another criticism that a lot of drummers take offense to is the criticism from the band that says, you should go and take some lessons. I've had so many of my adult and somewhat teen students say to me, you know, the guys in my band really annoyed me when they said I should go and take lessons. But here they are taking lessons. So while their feelings were hurt a little bit, oh, I need to get better. Guess what, Buttercup? All of us need to get better. You could be Vinny Colaiuta. He still practices his ass off. Dave Weckl, Steve Smith, all those great, fantastic drummers, they still put time in to make their craft better. So don't get your little self in an uproar because your bandmate says you need to take lessons or you need to practice. Because a lot of times guys don't come to rehearsals prepared. So that leads me to the next one. Don't be the guy that cancels rehearsal or gigs, especially gigs, or subs out a lot. So sometimes 2 hours before the rehearsal, the drummer's hungover. He doesn't feel like going. He's had a fight with his girlfriend or his wife. He's bummed out. No, do not cancel. Don't be the drummer that cancels last minute for crappy reasons. Obviously, if you got a legitimate injury, you're going to have to cancel rehearsal. I get it. Been there, done that. But if you're the guy that just is moody and you're a little bit down about something and you cancel, that's really crappy to your bandmates, to the rehearsal hall. And if it's a gig, you're probably not going to get rehired again, so you've cut your own throat, especially for a gig. Do not cancel last minute unless it's truly something is going on. A true emergency has happened. It happened to me one time where I had to cancel a gig. The guys in the band thought I was bailing on them. They didn't believe me. But to this day, it was absolutely true. My daughter had a medical emergency and I had to go and be with her. I had to take her to the hospital and I had to be with her on the day of that medical emergency. Was the third night, I think, of a series of gigs. And the second night didn't go well, unfortunately. The singer was all over the place. He's a singer, guitar player. He was all over the place. He kept rearranging the songs on the fly, and the band were all looking at each other like, what the hell's going on? And because of the rearranging, it just was loose. It wasn't that great. Somebody made a comment to him that the band didn't play well, and I overheard that, of course. I was not happy, but he thought the next day I canceled because of what I had overheard, which was not true. I would never do that. I would just return to the scene of the crime and try to play better the next night. You know, that's what I would have done had I not had this emergency situation. Okay, next one. Do not be the drummer that creates drama inside of the band, whether it be by talking to the bass player about the guitar player, or talking to somebody in the audience about somebody in the band or whatever. Creating drama and creating tension inside of the band is wrong. If you've got a problem with the guitar player, the singer, whatever, and I know that guitar players and singers can be contentious and they can be difficult. I'm trying not to paint them all with one brush, but I know that going and telling somebody something they don't want to hear can be difficult. I remember a situation where I was only subbing in this band, but I was subbing over a number of gigs, not just 1 or 2 gigs. The singer kept getting drunk, and the third set was always a disaster because he kept forgetting the words, his cues. The band had to carry him. It was terrible. And I'm the sub. I'm not the regular drummer. So I actually went to him and said, look, man, I can't work under these conditions. You know, either you stop drinking and getting drunk in the third set or I'm gone, basically is what I said. Didn't work. He continued to do his stupidity, but I did say that was it. I'm done with these guys. I fulfilled the duty of the contract, which was, I think, 5 or 6 gigs. I did fulfill them all. I wasn't happy at any of the gigs because of that, but I did fulfill them all, and in the end, I just left because I can't deal with that sort of thing, which leads us to another really important one. Do not be the drummer that shows up at rehearsal, gig, or studio time drunk or high. Huge mistake. Huge mistake, because you're not going to play your best. You're not going to get the musicality out that you want to get out. Some people are going to argue with me. I've played in actually several popular bands, somewhat popular, like locally popular bands, and they're hammered out of their minds, but they've been playing the songs for 1,000 years. In one band in particular, who will remain nameless, but they've been around since the 80s, and I subbed in, and I couldn't believe these guys are still getting so hammered at the gigs, but they've played these songs so many times they don't even have to think about it. Now, for me personally, though, honestly, I never enjoyed getting hammered at a gig. I always wanted to play my best. Now, if you're a studio musician or a musician, not necessarily a studio musician, but you are going into the studio, could be your first time in the studio, do not think that alcohol and drugs is the band-aid for the nerves. It is not going to help you. It is absolutely the worst thing that you could do, because the producer is going to see and smell and hear that you're drunk, high, whatever, and that'll be your last time in that studio. It's a very, very tough road to hoe, dealing with studio people, the people that work in the studio, and especially the boss, the producer. If you're drunk and high and showing up, you're not Keith Moon. You know, we always hear these crazy stories. I remember Terry Brown, Rush's producer, who produced a Who album, telling me all about how difficult it was to deal with Keith Moon. But he's Keith Moon. That's a whole different thing. 99% of us, I shouldn't say 99%, sorry, 100% of us are not Keith Moon. Therefore, we can't get away with what Keith used to be able to get away with. So show up at the studio prepared, level-headed, straight-minded, set your gear up, tune your drums up, have a good conversation with the engineer, get all the mics set up properly, and play well. You will get rehired if you do that practice and you do it each and every time. Okay, this is the last one on my list here. You don't want to be this drummer. The drummer that does not want to better themselves, i.e. not practicing, doesn't want to educate themselves, i.e. not taking lessons or even watching YouTube videos to try and better themselves. The drummer that makes excuses about being unprepared and not ready at rehearsals or gigs. So always try and better yourself. Always be prepared for every rehearsal, every gig, and if you can, educate yourself. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about going to music school like I did and so many other people have done. That is the ultimate in education. Music school was amazing, and I learned so much. The teachers are fantastic, at least at the music schools that I attended, and I'm sure many, many other music schools. They hire the finest musicians and teachers to show the students how to survive in this very difficult world of music if you're trying to make a living. So I realize that most of my subscribers, most of people watching this are not making a living as a musician. I totally get that, but that still doesn't mean that you can't practice, get better, learn how to chart so that you can always be prepared. You got the chart written out at rehearsal and you're good to go. Like I said, doesn't mean music school. I encourage you to take lessons and or practice. Also, there's so many different YouTube channels. Mine right now, right here, right now, with lots of great drum lessons. Shout out to Drumeo. I'm not getting paid by them, but really fantastic educational YouTube channel. Also, Rob Beatdown Brown, fantastic. And my main man, shout out to, in my opinion, the greatest ranter on YouTube for drummers, Steve. Junk drummer Steve. Steve, if you're watching, I love you, man. You've been shouting me out a few times recently in your videos, and I sincerely appreciate it, so I want to return the favor. Steve has some awesome rants, and he's got some great instructional stuff, and you can learn a lot. Steve really, last few videos that Steve's done, just common sense stuff that people just don't seem to understand, but it's brilliant. Steve's a lot better talker than me. I could listen to the guy all day. He just knows the business. He's been around a long time, and he is really good at getting his point across. I'm trying to get my point across as best as I can with these 7 different times you don't want to be that drummer. Hopefully you guys learned something from this. I've been on the road and a professional drummer for many, many, many years. I've seen it all. I've been in hundreds and hundreds of bands. I've subbed in hundreds of bands. I've got a lot of experience, and I'm just hoping that my experience can be used so that other people don't make the mistakes that, quite frankly, I made. I made a lot of these mistakes that I'm giving you right now, okay? So I just realized that I have one more I want to add, and that is, I just thought of one more, and that is, don't overplay or not play for the song/music. You don't want to be the drummer that overplays. If you show up and you're playing a Motown gig, don't play like you're Neil Peart. Vice versa. Don't play like the Motown drummer if you show up for a Rush tribute. You've got to play like Neil. So always play to the music and for the music. Try to make the band sound better by doing what you need to do to make not only yourself sound good, but the band sound good. Crazy drum fills when the band is, the vocalist is singing a slower part or a more meaningful part in the verse, and you're playing drum fills like crazy all through that. Not a good idea. Play for the song. Play for the music. Okay? All right. So those are my 7 times you do not want to be this drummer. And like I said, I hope you learned something from this. I'll be back drumming soon. Hand is healing. Thank you very much to my new subscribers. And please check out my merch. I've got some really cool Tim Connolly drums, hats and shirts and all kinds of things. So please check out my merch. And if you want to buy me a coffee, that would be fantastic too. And as always, keep drumming. Thanks for coming. See ya.